If you think stories like this shouldn't stay hidden, make sure you subscribe, drop a like, and tell us what shocked you most, because this one cuts deep. Sirens pierced the humid night air as an ambulance sped toward Rikers Island, its lights flashing off the East River like frantic warning signals. Inside, a correction officer held pressure on the chest of an inmate, 25-year-old Malik Torres, who wasn't supposed to be dying tonight. He'd been in line for a routine court transfer. 30 minutes earlier he'd been laughing with another detainee, joking about finally seeing daylight after 8 weeks stuck inside the notorious backlog of Rikers court delays. Now his eyes were wide, frozen, and terrified, as if he'd seen something in that hallway no one else caught. The officer kept shouting, "Stay with me," but Malik was already slipping away. By sunrise, word spread across the island. Another inmate had died, and the circumstances didn't add up. Detective Lena Marlowe knew the drill. She'd been assigned to Rikers cases before. Medical complications was the phrase they always used. But the moment she stepped into the intake unit where Malik collapsed, she sensed something different. The air felt wrong. Too quiet, too controlled. The guards stood stiff, anxious, avoiding eye contact. She spotted a young officer, Alvarez, with trembling hands. When she approached him, he flinched. "Rough night?" Lena asked. He swallowed hard. "You could say that. Tell me what happened." Alvarez hesitated, glancing at the watch commander's office as if someone might pounce. "Torres didn't just collapse," he whispered. "He was running." "Running from who?" Alvarez looked down at his boots. "From us. From the unit." A beat passed. "From the wrong people." Before Lena could press further, the watch commander stepped out. A tall, stone-faced man named Captain Reeves. "Detective, we've prepared the official report," he said, handing her a thin folder. "Too thin. Torres suffered a medical episode during transport. That's all." Lena took the folder without a word. But the tension in Reeves' jaw told her something was being buried, fast and deep. She followed Malik's trail to surveillance. That's when the stone wall of Rikers bureaucracy slammed shut. "Camera malfunction," they said. "All footage lost," they said. "System glitch," they said. Lena didn't buy any of it. The infirmary doctor confirmed Malik had severe internal trauma. "He didn't fall," the doctor noted. "He was hit." But when Lena asked who signed off on the body transfer, the nurse handed her a clipboard. The signature at the bottom froze her. Torres had been cleared by someone who wasn't even on shift. Someone who wasn't supposed to be there at all. Meanwhile, the inmates in Malik's housing unit were suddenly silent, as if every one of them had been instructed to forget. All except one, Raymond Stacks DeLuca, an older detainee with a reputation for reading people like open books. When Lena asked him what he saw, he shook his head. "You don't want this case, detective." "Why not?" Stacks leaned in, voice low. "Because here, when something happens, it's never an accident. And it's never one person. It's the whole machine." Later that afternoon, while reviewing Malik's belongings, Lena found something odd tucked inside his sneaker, a torn piece of paper, folded tightly, with a message scribbled in panicked handwriting. "If anything happens to me, it's because I saw the list. Look in C block. Closet 3. Don't trust them." A chill ran down her spine. A list? A closet? And who was them? Before she could request access, her phone buzzed. An anonymous text message flashed across the screen. "Stop searching. Or you're next." Lena held the phone, pulse thundering. Someone inside Rikers didn't just want this case closed. They were willing to threaten a detective to keep it buried. But the true shock came minutes later, when facility security radioed in. "Detective Marlowe, we need you in C block immediately. The door to closet 3 has been found forced open, and there's something inside you need to see." When Lena stepped into the dim hallway of C block, she felt every guard watching her. Every inmate whispering. Every shadow stretching too long. She reached the rusted metal door, heart pounding. She pulled it open. And what she found inside changed everything. A single fluorescent bulb flickered overhead as Detective Lena Marlowe stepped into the cramped storage closet of C block. Dust floated in the stale air, and the smell of damp concrete clung to her clothes. At first, she didn't understand what she was looking at. The room was small, almost empty, except for a stack of cardboard boxes on a metal shelf, and a single manila folder sitting in the center of the floor like someone had placed it there deliberately. Lena crouched down and picked it up. The folder wasn't dusty. It hadn't been there long. Inside were dozens of printed sheets, each one containing names, dates, cell assignments, medical requests, disciplinary write-ups, incident reports, but all of them had one thing in common. Every document had been edited, lines crossed out, details erased, whole sections rewritten in the same distinct handwriting. A handwriting she recognized. Captain Reeves. She flipped through page after page of altered reports. Some were just minor adjustments, shifting timestamps by a few minutes. Others were far more alarming. Medical complaints changed to resolved, violent altercations downgraded to verbal dispute, and in 2 cases, death reports completely rewritten to erase evidence of force. These weren't mistakes. They were cover-ups. The truth hit her like a blow. This wasn't a lapse in paperwork. This was systemic manipulation, an entire chain of false records meant to hide whatever was happening inside Rikers' walls. Then she reached the last page. It was 23 names. No titles. No explanations. Just inmate identification numbers beside them. Malik Torres was number 17. Halfway down, Lena's breath caught. Number 5 wasn't an inmate at all, it was the ID number of a corrections officer. Alvarez. Before she could process that, a door slammed somewhere behind her. Footsteps. Heavy. Approaching. Lena tucked the folder into her jacket and stepped out of the closet, her pulse racing. 2 officers turned the corner, both with the rigid posture of men who'd been given orders and didn't plan to ask questions. "Detective," one of them said. "Captain Reeves wants to see you." Immediately. Lena didn't move. Why? Standard procedure. Procedure for what? The officer didn't answer. Instead, he glanced at his partner, a subtle signal, but unmistakable. They weren't escorting her. They were detaining her. "I'll walk myself," she said. "Afraid we can't allow that." Before they could take a step closer, the tier door buzzed open at the end of the hallway. A third figure rushed through, Officer Alvarez. His eyes darted from Lena to the guards and back again, panic carved into his face. "Detective, you need to come with me. Now." The guards stiffened. "Alvarez, step aside. This doesn't concern you." But Alvarez shook his head. "The hell it doesn't." That hesitation was all Lena needed. She slipped past the guards and followed Alvarez down the corridor as he swiped his card through a side entrance that slammed shut behind them. "What's going on?" Lena demanded. Alvarez leaned against the wall, catching his breath. "You weren't supposed to open that closet." "That's obvious." "Tell me why." "Because you weren't supposed to see the list." "Is that why Torres was killed?" Alvarez hesitated, his voice low and trembling. "It wasn't just him. There are more. Anyone who ends up on that list, they're marked." "For what?" "For removal," Alvarez whispered. Lena felt her blood run cold. "You're telling me this place is running a hit list?" "No," he said, shaking his head. "It's worse. They're burying cases, altering records, reassigning prisoners to units where they won't survive. If someone becomes a liability, an informant, a witness, a complaint filer, they get added. And then something happens to them." "Reeves is behind this?" "Reeves is just the surface," Alvarez said. "There's someone above him. Someone who signs off on everything without ever stepping foot on the floor. They run this place in the shadows." Before she could ask another question, the facility intercom crackled overhead. "Attention. Koblek. All personnel report to your stations." Alvarez froze. "They know you have the folder." "How?" Lena hissed. "Because there are cameras everywhere." He leaned in close. "Even in places they claim there aren't." The lights suddenly cut out, plunging the hallway into darkness. Emergency sirens wailed. Doors slammed shut one by one, sealing the block. Alvarez grabbed Lena's arm. "We need to move." "They're coming." But before they could take a step, a voice echoed down the dark corridor. "Controlled. Cold. Detective Marlowe. Officer Alvarez. Stop running. Captain Reeves. A flashlight beam flicked on, illuminating only his silhouette. You've seen too much, he said. Hand over the folder. Lena steadied her breath. It's gone, Reeves. A long pause. Then a chilling reply. Not yet. But it will be. The beam lifted, revealing he wasn't alone. Two more figures stepped into the light. And they weren't officers. They were inmates. Both wearing stolen badges. Both holding. The voice echoed through the darkened corridor, bouncing off concrete walls like a trapped ghost. Help me. Alvarez's flashlight trembled in his hand. That can't be him, he whispered. Torres is dead. I saw. Another cry cut through the air, louder this time, raw with pain. Please, someone. I'm still here. Captain Reeves stiffened. For the first time, his mask cracked, a flicker of unease twisting across his face. That's impossible, he muttered, stepping back. The body was transported. Lena felt her instincts ignite. The voice wasn't supernatural. It wasn't a ghost. It was a setup. Someone else was being used, or someone had survived something they were never meant to walk away from. Reeves, she said, stepping forward. Where's the body now? Reeves didn't answer, but the slightest twitch in his expression revealed everything she needed to know. It was still inside Rikers. A clang echoed from deeper within the block. Then another. Slow, dragging footsteps. Then a silhouette appeared at the far end of the hallway, hunched, trembling, clutching the wall for support. Lena's breath caught. It was Malik Torres. His jumpsuit was torn. His face bruised. His breathing ragged and shallow. But he was standing. Alive. Alvarez stumbled back. How is he walking? Torres tried to speak, but only a wet cough came out. He raised his hand weakly, pointing not at Lena, but behind her. Watch out. Reeves lunged. Lena dodged, shoving Alvarez out of the path as Reeves slammed into the metal wall. The two inmates with him charged forward, their improvised restraints swinging like weapons. Alvarez tackled one, sending both crashing into a row of lockers. Lena grabbed the dropped flashlight, whipping it across the second inmate's wrist and knocking the restraint loose. Reeves roared, reaching for Lena again. You don't understand what's at stake. This facility stays standing because we keep control. Without it, everything falls apart. Control. Lena shot back. You mean erasing people? Covering up deaths? That's not control, that's murder. Reeves charged, but Torres, limping and gasping, threw his weight into the captain from behind. The impact sent Reeves stumbling forward, crashing onto the concrete. Alvarez cuffed the two inmates with their own restraints. The corridor fell silent except for Torres' strained breathing. Lena knelt beside him. Malik, what happened to you? He struggled to speak, his words faint. They tried to move me off record. Said I saw something I shouldn't have. They dragged me to the lower ward, but I got away. Had to hide. Didn't think I'd make it? Lena steadied him. You're safe now. No, he whispered, eyes wide with terror. No one is. You haven't seen the full list. Torres reached into his torn jumpsuit and pulled out a second folded page, stained with dirt and blood. A different list. Not 23 names. Dozens. Pages worth. Every one marked for reclassification, transfer, or medical discharge. Lena recognized several from previous unresolved Rikers incidents, all cases ruled accidents. Alvarez swallowed hard. This is genocide by paperwork. Before they could react, the loudspeakers crackled to life. Code red. All units respond to C-block. Deadly force authorized. Reeves lifted his head, laughing through split lips. You exposed nothing. You think they'll let this leave the island? You think anyone out there wants the truth? Rikers isn't a jail, it's a machine. And it keeps running, no matter who gets crushed. Lena's jaw tightened. She looked at Torres, barely conscious, then at Alvarez, terrified but standing strong. Then we break the machine, she said. They moved fast. Alvarez led them through an emergency maintenance corridor he used to avoid hostile units. It wound behind 3 cell blocks, under a faulty ventilation shaft, and toward an exit that opened near the administrative wing, where transmission servers stored incident reports. If she uploaded the files there, every alteration, every fake report, every hidden name would be exposed. But as the trio approached the door, they heard boots pounding, dozens of officers converging. Reeves' people were closing in. Lena shoved the folder into Torres' hands. "Hold this. No matter what." Alvarez swiped the keycard. The server room lights flicked on, cold blue LEDs illuminating rows of humming hardware. Lena rushed to the central terminal and plugged in the data stick Alvarez kept for backups. Files began uploading, slowly. Too slowly. Fists hammered the door. Someone shouted, "Break it down." Alvarez braced against the door. Come on, come on." The upload bar crawled. 62%, 70%, 83%. Torres whispered, "They're coming." 91%, 95%, 99%. Complete. At that exact moment, the door exploded inward. Alvarez was thrown back. Officers stormed in. Reeves appeared last, bloodied but burning with fury. "What did you do?" he snarled. Lena stepped back from the terminal. "Finished the investigation." Reeves lunged for the computer, but it was too late. Every file had already been transmitted to NYPD Internal Affairs, the District Attorney's Office, and the Federal Oversight Board. A dozen servers across the city now held the truth. Reeves froze, realizing the machine had finally been exposed. "You've doomed this place," he whispered. "No," Lena said. "You doomed it the moment you tried to bury the people inside it." Torres leaned against the wall, exhausted but alive, and finally heard. Outside, alarms blared as backup units rushed the block. But this time, to protect the whistleblowers, not silence them. Rikers Island would never be the same. And as Lena led Torres and Alvarez out under the flashing emergency lights, a chilling thought settled deep in her stomach. If this much had been hidden in just one block, how much more was still buried across the island? She exhaled, turning toward the camera crews already gathering at the perimeter. "If you think this story was intense," she murmured, "you're not ready for what comes next. Don't forget to follow, because the next case is even darker."